Okay, we're going to take a look at the increment and decrement statements. Now these can be very useful, especially when you're creating something like a counter. So let's take a look at our code here. We're assigning the value of 1 to A. And then we're going to increment it by 1 in 3 different ways. We're going to increment it by 1 here, we're going to increment it by 1 here, and we're going to increment it by 1 here. Now the first one, it says we have A, let's assign the value that we have on the right, and we have a rhythmic operator, so it takes this operand and this operand, so it's going to take the value of 1 plus 1, and it's going to return 2 to this part of the code, and then it's going to assign that value to A. Now the second one, we have the plus equal sign, and this is going to take the current value of the value on the left, which is A, and it's going to go ahead and add the value on the right. So it's just going to increment it by 1. Now our next one is A++. This is our increment statement. So semantically, this is the same as this right here. So it's just going to increment it by 1. Now if you didn't want to use this, you absolutely don't have to. But it's short, and it helps keep your code looking clean. So let's go ahead and run that. There we go. We started off with 1, we added 1 more, we added another, we added another. So there's our 1, 2, 3, and 4. So let's take a look at the decrement operator. Now the decrement operator is going to operate pretty much just the same as the increment statement, but it's just going to take the value and reduce it by 1. So let's go ahead and run that. Okay, so we started off with 1 and we decremented it by 1. Now let's take a look at an example that we would be more likely to find in the real world. Okay, so this is our for loop, and we're going to use it to increase the value of I and print it off each time that we do that. So we're going to cover for loops in more detail later, but for now, I starts off. We're going to go ahead first. We're going to start off by assigning the value 0 to I, and then this chunk of code is going to determine if we continue or not. So if this equates to true, then we will go ahead and run this block of code. So after it's run that block of code, we're going to go ahead and increment it by 1. So let's go ahead and run this real quick. All right. So like I said, we start off with the value of 0 for I. I is less than 11, so that is true. This means we run this block of code, so it prints off I, which was equal to 0, and then after that block runs, it runs this block of code, which increments it by 1, and then it starts all over again. It checks to see if 1 is less than 11. That is true. Runs this block of code, prints 1, and so on and so on. Now after 10, towards the end of it, after 10 prints, it adds 1 more, making it 11. 11 is not less than 11, and that's what actually stops our loop. Now we don't actually have to write I++. We can do I plus 1, and that'll run. We can use the plus equal operator, and that will run. But this is pretty short, pretty concise. This is a fairly common operation, so it wouldn't hurt to learn this statement. All right, I'll see you in the next one.